Night is one of those typical short notice nights, so you are really in for a treat because this is when magical things happen on this program. No script, no rehearsal, it's just raw energy. So James and I have known each other for a number of years, and we come on each other's programs, and of course he has that wonderful conference in July in Trout Lake, Washington. If you want more information on it, you can go to ECETI, ECETI.org, and find out more about it. This year is going to be even better than last year. So, and by the way, if you haven't seen a UFO, just start saving your dollars because you're going to see one this year. All right, James. Earth seems to be shedding some very negative shrouds that have gained power over the past few decades. And I know that sounds a little unscientific, but I want everybody to listen up. Last week we announced that the Voyager craft has reported the presence of a large body of very hot, fast gas particles. They actually call it fluff, right where we predicted it would be, much to the surprise of astrophysicists. So Big Bang proponents have said that the low-level microwave hum across the universe is evidence they are right about the origins of the universe. However, the presence of this encapsulated high-energy particle cloud just outside the heliosphere is evidence to the contrary. They're saying that several supernovae occurred maybe a millennia ago and are responsible for these high-energy particles, and that falls in line with our theory of planetary creation. It's not Big Bang, it's a bunch of medium bangs. So what's happening with the energy of the Earth right now, James?
You know, there's some really interesting things going on, and you know, there's a lot of people don't put any, you know, stock in astrology, you know, especially when sometimes the planets aren't where they're supposed to be. But, you know, if you get into the Vedic astrology, they are aligned in where they're supposed to be, and I really don't get into it that much, but I've been observing what's been going on, and we just had the sun aligned with Pluto coming into Christmas, and you know, we all know what that's about, but it brings up all your deepest, darkest fears and wounds and secrets and everything, and right in time to be hanging out with all your relatives, you know. So it was quite interesting event, and I know a lot of processes, you know, went on through that.
Should have made for some very interesting family reunions.
No, exactly. You know, and the shift that we're going through right now, that we just went through the full moon that was aligned with Mars, and you know, brings up a lot of anger and a lot of aggression and a lot of unprocessed, you know, energies around that. But there's something else driving behind that as well. Yeah, you know, and you know, we can't really put a label on it. The only thing I can say is it's multidimensional, and it's higher beings or higher consciousness and energy.
Well, do you think it's a clearing event, that the Earth is kind of in a purge or an allergic reaction to the darkness that's been building up for a while?
You know, it is, and I know the past 2 days, those people who are sensitive have just been laid out, and they almost have been just rendered dysfunctional, and myself being one of them. And I couldn't figure out what the heck is going on. This energy is just slamming me, and the Earth is doing a major purge itself and releasing a lot of the dense consciousness and energy that's psychometrized into it as well. And those who are sensitive are actually feeling this move up and out, you know, through them at the same time, and have just been laid out and had to do a lot of healing work themselves, you know, and clearing this baggage, you might say. So it's been quite a trying time, especially for people who are sensitive right now. But you know, it's a good thing.
What I've found, and this is really new since the last time we talked, there had been some articles out as Voyager was getting close to the edge of the heliosphere that they weren't really expecting it to go through the shall we call it, the event horizon of the heliosphere for a long time. But all of a sudden it started poking out into clear space. And they said, wait a minute, that's not supposed to be there. The heliosphere is much bigger than that. And what they found was that the solar wind has been quiet, really quiet, for so long now, almost 600 days, that the galactic wind is beginning to overcome the solar wind, and it's distorting the roundness of the sphere into more of a bullet shape. It's kind of stretching it out like a torpedo. And then the presence of these high-energy particles, which would normally be buffeted outside our heliosphere, sort of protected by the solar wind, are now penetrating into the solar system. Now, what this means, I don't know if you're familiar with cosmic rays, but we get bombarded all the time by solar cosmic rays. We're kind of used to it. Our plants metabolize it, and our atmosphere lights up with it, with the aurora sometimes, and upper cloud cover seems to absorb it. But these are not solar particles. These are galactic particles. These are fresh, clean supernova particles. In other words, these are virgin particles that are coming into our atmosphere. And when they do, they fluoresce. They bounce off of molecules in the upper atmosphere, and they kick off new photons. Well, those photons are of a frequency that seems to be switching on things in our DNA. You know, walking down the street, eating cookies, drinking milk, minding your own business, and your DNA is switching.
Yeah.
Now, the other thing that's happening is these particles are going into the earth, and then we eat the earth. You know, the peas and carrots that we eat come from the earth. All that lettuce, all those Big Macs, everything comes from the earth and makes up the proteins of your body. But it's the genes of your body and the environment in which you live that make those proteins. So you're beginning to anatomically change, and that's the environment in which your consciousness resides. So maybe this is the 2x4 that's smacking everybody right now.
Yeah, the big cosmic 2x4, exactly. You know, they've been talking about this event, the higher beings, the Pleiadians, Andromedans, and some of the other ones, and they've been saying a big event is coming, and they've been talking about it over and over, and they would feed me bits and pieces, but wouldn't give me the whole agenda of what's going on. But it's almost as if the source itself is invading the earth through every little atom, and it's just amazing. But you know, whenever you add a huge influx of energy into a system, you know, there's going to be change and there's going to be evolution, and you know, there's no doubt about it. It's here, it's ongoing, and we're going through a quantum leap right now in consciousness and energy. Are you familiar with Dr. I think it's Dmitriev? I don't know if I'm saying his name right. The Russian physicist that. He actually said that our Earth is moving to a new place. Our whole solar system is moving to a new, highly energized place in space, and it might have something to do with this as well. And he's talking about how it's going to affect us on so many levels. And you know, we do have these bioelectric magnetic fields around our body, and that's being completely altered. And then you add that to Bruce Lipton's work, where he says the cell, the DNA is not the brain of the cell, but it's the gonads. It's a replicator, and the information is actually coming in from outside the cell through antenna on the cell wall, and that is telling the DNA what to do. That's the new information. So, you know, we don't have enough genes to operate this body. We're short, 70,000 genes or so to operate this body. So there is some unseen force, outside force, that is governing this physical body.
Yeah,
and when you add
that's a real breakthrough, that there isn't one gene for each protein, as was once believed. Each gene has a big catalog of proteins that they can make. And then you have the folding and unfolding of proteins as they replicate. That's the Darwinian theory, that, you know, this is when proteins mutate, you know, this is when things adapt to their environment. But normally we don't see that until there's a generational change. That is to say, now children that are being born are showing at least a 10% larger cerebrum than children born in the 1930s. And they're attributing this to the huge influx of this new neural network called the